Good morning and happy Easter. Welcome back to Godly Play. I hope you've had a chance to get ready to receive the gift of the story that we're about to hear. And we can sing our song to get ready together. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am God. Now, let's look at the church calendar. And we see we've made it through the purple days of getting ready. And now we're in the special day that has a cross on it, Easter Sunday. And watch where I go to get this story, so you'll always know where to find it. In the beginning, the baby was born. God chose Mary to be the mother of God. Listen carefully. Listen to the words. God chose Mary to be the mother of God, and the Word was born a wordless child. When the baby looked up into the face of the mother Mary, he already saw the cross. And when he looked up into the face of the father Joseph, he saw the cross too. The mother Mary and the father Joseph kept the baby close. They gave the baby everything that babies need to grow, and the baby began to grow. And the baby grew and grew and became a boy. When he was about 12 years old, he went with his mother Mary and his father Joseph and many other people from their village in Nazareth to the great city of Jerusalem to keep one of the high holy days. Now when the celebration was over, the people of Nazareth went back out the great high gate and started on the road toward home. Suddenly, Mary and Joseph realized that Jesus was not with them. They thought that he had been playing with the other children that were with their group as they walked along the road. They hurried back to the great city of Jerusalem to look for him. Mary and Joseph looked in the dark, narrow streets. They looked in the marketplace where they had bought their food. They looked in the place where they had spent the night. They looked everywhere. And finally, they looked in the temple, and there he was. He was talking to the rabbis, the priests. When he spoke, they listened because they knew so much. And when they spoke, he listened because he wanted to learn so much more. Mary and Joseph then asked Jesus the question that all parents ask their children, the question that you can never answer. Why did you do this? But when he answered them, he said something very strange. Didn't you know that I would be in my Father's house? Mary and Joseph didn't know what this meant. Their house was in Nazareth, where Joseph's carpenter shop was. They did not understand, but they did not forget. And the boy grew, and Jesus became a man. When he was about 30 years old, he went to the river Jordan where his cousin John was baptizing people. Do you see John? You can just see the back of his head. He was a wild, wild man. Now Jesus waded into the river until he was face to face with John, and he said, "Baptize me." But John looked at Jesus as if he was seeing him for the first time, because now he saw who he really was. "How can I baptize you?" You are the Messiah. You are the one we've been waiting for. You must baptize me." "No. It is written that you come before me, and you must baptize me." Jesus went down into the darkness and chaos of the water. When John lifted him back up into the light, there were people who said they saw a dove come very close, down from heaven and close to Jesus. And there were people that day who said they heard a voice. The voice said, "This is my beloved Son, with whom I am well pleased." After Jesus was baptized, he went on across the river Jordan into the desert. He stayed there for 40 days and 40 nights to learn more about who he was and what his work was going to be. Jesus went into the desert to discover more about who he was and what his work was going to be. He was there for 40 days and 40 nights, and there was very little to eat or to drink. One day, he heard a voice, and the voice said, "Why don't you turn one of those stones over there into bread so you can have something to eat?" But Jesus said, "No. To be a real human being, we need more than bread to eat." Then suddenly, it was as if Jesus were on top of the great temple in Jerusalem. And the voice came back, "If you're really the Son of God, why don't you jump and see if God's angels will catch you before you hit the stones below?" But Jesus said, "No, we do not need to test God." And then it was as if Jesus could see all the kingdoms of the whole world. And the voice came back again and said, "If you follow me, I will make you king over all of these kingdoms." But Jesus said, "No, I am a king, but I'm not that kind of king." And the voice went away. Jesus went back across the Jordan and began to do his work. But what was his work? Jesus came back across the river Jordan and began to do his work. But what was his work? His work was to come really close to people, especially the people that nobody else wanted to come close to. You see, he's come very close to this blind man, so close that he can put his fingers on the blind man's eyes. When Jesus came close to people, they changed. They could see things they could never see before. They could do things they could never do before. They became well. Jesus also told parables, and finally he knew that he had to become a parable. So he turned toward Jerusalem for the last time. Jesus went to Jerusalem for the last time. It was the time of the Passover, and the city was full of people from many different lands. They thought Jesus was coming to be king, but they weren't paying attention. He wasn't riding on a white horse when he came into the city. He wasn't being carried by soldiers. He was riding on a donkey, and it wasn't even his donkey. He borrowed it. Still, that Sunday when Jesus came into Jerusalem, people waved palm branches, which is a sign of kings. On Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, Jesus went into the temple to teach. Every night he went back to the Mount of Olives with the 12. The people watched him and whispered that the Mount of Olives was where angels were supposed to come down and make an army that would drive away the Roman soldiers. One day when Jesus was teaching in the temple, he said, "Do you see that old woman over there? She's going to put something in the money box. Listen, do you hear anything?" No. She put the smallest coin that there is in that box because that's all the money she had. Now here comes a rich man. He has so much money to put in the money box that he has to have somebody carry it for him. It makes a huge clanging and ringing when he puts his money in the box. Now I wonder, which one of these gave the most, the old woman or the rich man? Some said the rich man gave the most. Some said the old woman gave the most. And the temple guards said, on Thursday we will take him. But on Thursday they could not find him. That evening, the 12 hurried through the dark streets to a house, and they climbed the stairs to an upper room and shared their last supper together. After they had had everything they wanted to eat, Jesus took some bread, and he gave thanks to God for it. Then he broke the bread and said something like, "Whenever you break the bread like this and share it, I will be there." He also took a cup of wine, gave thanks to God for it, and said, "Whenever you share a cup of wine like this, I will be there." What was he talking about? He was always saying strange things like that. How could they know? Still, they did not forget, and soon they would understand. Suddenly, Judas got up and left. The rest sang a hymn and then went to the Garden of Gethsemane on the Mount of Olives because Jesus wanted to pray. When he was finished, he joined the 12, but Judas came out of the dark and greeted him. This was a signal for the temple guards to take him. They came out of the dark too, and they took Jesus away with them into the night. And the 12 disappeared into the darkness as well. That night was a confusing one. The next day, Jesus was taken outside the walls of the city and crucified. That afternoon, Jesus died. He was taken down from the cross and buried in a cave, and a great stone was rolled across the opening of the cave to close it like a door. Saturday was so quiet, you could almost hear the earth breathing. On Sunday, it was the women who had the courage to go to the tomb and see and be close to Jesus. They wanted to remember, even if it was very sad for them. But when they came to the tomb, they found that the stone had been rolled away and the tomb was empty. Jesus had died on the cross, but somehow he was with them, even as he's with us, in the bread and the wine. When you look at this, you know that the other side is there. And when you look at this side, you know that this is there. And you can't pull them apart. You have to have this side in order to have this side. And this side has to be there for you to have this side. But wait, something is weird. We have a beginning and a middle and an end. But if we have just this side, the story has an end. And this is the end of the story. But if we look at this side, the story does not have an end. The beginning is an end and the end is a beginning. Let's see what we can do. now the story has no end. Now the story can go on forever. I wonder if there's anything in this room that you can bring that can help us tell this story. I wonder if there's anything in the room where you are that you can bring to tell this story. I don't know what your thing is that you want to bring or how you want to tell the story. Happy Easter. We hope to see you soon back at Oconee Street.